Sorry, John.
Good to go.
All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the August 29th Public Safety Committee meeting. We are meeting remotely, and again, taking no advice, giving no advice, having no votes. This is purely discussion based only. With us today, let's see here. We got Gary Narr. He's our codes and zoning guru. We have Chief Sam Unks, Deputy Chief Keith Lucas, Councilman Vincent Polizzi. It appears we have Jenny Picciano from Lycoming County Planning. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Bonnie Katz, Councilwoman Bonnie Katz, Chris Black, our IT guy, Janice Frank, City Clerk, and a few other folks. I'm not sure who they are with, Josh Owens and Matt Walter. Again, we are meeting remotely. We have three things on the agenda today. We will get to those now. Number one, resolution authorizing listing and marketing agreements between the Williamsport Bureau of Fire and Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus. Gentlemen from the fire department, which one or two would like to take this?
That would be me, Chief Lucas.
All right, welcome.
Awesome. So what you have before you is an authorization listing and marketing agreement between the Williamsport Bureau of Fire and Brindley Mountain Fire Apparatus. If you notice, it says agreements. So what this is a third party that would help us sell the fire trucks for when we get our new fleet in. And they advertise nationwide. So they'll give us a bigger bang for our buck to sell them versus just trying to sell them local. So each agreement is per apparatus. That's why it says agreements. So what they did was give us what our apparatus is currently going for on the high end and on the low end. So we decided to start with the high end on each one. They will advertise them, and then people will post bids. We'll set a date for a bid opening, and then highest bidder, we decide whether to accept or reject their offer. So their fee schedule is listed in the resolution. I ran this by Austin White. He did revise their agreements, and he did help me with writing the resolution. So Austin White is okay with this. Any questions?
I will open up the floor. Councilman Polizzi, Councilwoman Katz, whoever would like to go first.
Okay, since Vince, are you talking? If you are, you're muted.
He's not, Bonnie. Go ahead.
Okay. Is there, again, no, I take it from what you're saying is that none of the apparatuses are worth our saving for anything at this point? Or are we selling them off to get bigger and better equipment?
Yes. So we have 2 new engines and an aerial ordered. We expect delivery of the aerial sometime March next year, and then 2 engines later on that year. So this will be a replacement from the old apparatus when we get the new apparatus, and we're trying to get fair market value back out of the apparatus. So
These are still functional though, right?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why we're trying to get as much out of these, obviously, as we can, is to utilize that towards the purchase of a what's called a Quint. A Quint has an aerial ladder. It's basically an engine, a fire pumper with a ladder on it. And for ISO purposes, that will improve our ladder rating under the fire department portion of the ISO.
Just out of curiosity, how high up does the ladder go on that?
On our front line, it goes up 100 feet, and on the reserve that we're looking at, it would be about 75 feet.
Okay. So this should cover buildings uh, for the height purposes. The only time I've really seen that in action was when we were doing something at City Hall. Okay, truthfully, we're bringing Santa Claus off the second floor,
Yeah,
Um,
balcony.
which was an experience. That was the only time I really saw that, but it was interesting how it was done, and I was just curious how high the ladder does go up. But you're not going to be able to get rid of this equipment until the new one is in place, right? Or are you going to, if you get a buyer immediately, what are you going to do?
So we're gonna post for bids to be opened closer to when we're getting delivery of the apparatus. So that way, we're gonna enter the agreement now. That gives them time to advertise, and if people are interested, they'll know when these apparatus are available, when they're bidding on.
Okay, so until the time comes that we get the new equipment, they are not going to leave the city until then.
Correct.
Okay, all right. I have no other questions. Thank you, gentlemen.
Like that.
Councilman Pelisi, go ahead. Yeah, Vince, it doesn't appear that you're muted, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, right.
No questions. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Vince has no questions. Bonnie, you asked probably my main, you covered my main question was, what if we do get a buyer immediately? And guys, you answered that. So you said March for the aerial. Do we have any idea when those two new engines might be available?
They should be off the production line and available in August at some point. But it has to go down to outside of Harrisburg to have the mounting of the equipment. So they should be available within a month. So
Okay.
we're looking September.
And best case scenario, you're thinking these 3 trucks we're going to get. Best case scenario is a little bit more than $1 million. You think worst case scenario 690,000? Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah, that's based on how they're selling apparatus right now. Yes.
Sure. And the Quint truck that you hope to purchase, does that fall hopefully somewhere in between the 690 and $1,060,000 range?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we have an idea of how much something like that will cost?
It depends. We went out, when was that? I think it was in March, wasn't it? 2 of the guys went out to California to look at a 2008 C-grade mean stick, 75-foot Quint. And because of the way our finances are, I don't want to say the finances, but our equipment, it's going to be a real fine line in between the time that we sell the equipment and we make that purchase of the Quint. So, you know, that's why we were kind of looking to see if we would be able to get the Quint earlier. And then once that's done, then the whatever we sell the apparatus for, we can put that back into the general fund. But we're not able to do that, so.
Okay. So we are, when you say purchase a Quint, we're talking about a used vehicle then?
Correct. Yeah, a Quint right now, a brand new Quint, we're looking probably closer to 3 years for delivery. And that's among all of the suppliers and manufacturers. And it would be in the neighborhood of 1.5 million for a Quint.
Okay.
The price of apparatus went up exponentially since COVID. And the build times have gone just as far out.
And are you able to give us an idea, or are you allowed to say how much the used truck you went out to California to look at was being sold for?
It was
325, yeah, 325,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was 325. But with shipping and everything, we probably could have gotten it out here, back to Pennsylvania for, right around the same amount. So,
Same amount as what?
the 325.
Oh, okay. All right. So I guess that would lead me to another question. Let's hope that when we do sell these 3 trucks, we do get close to $1 million. We spend somewhere in the neighborhood of 300,000 or 400,000 on a used Quint. The remainder of that cash, are we going to put that somewhere? Are we going to put that into an account for maintenance on these trucks? So what's going to happen with that money?
Yeah, so the rule would be to put that in the capital reserve. The remainder of the cash, put it into the capital for the capital budget for the purchase of the new trucks.
Purchase
So,
of new trucks when the new trucks we bought need to be replaced.
correct.
Years down, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's it for me.
John, I do have another question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Bonnie.
I'm going to ask both you and Vince and also the chiefs. Was any of this money that's buying any of this equipment from ARPA? I can't remember.
yeah. All 3 new apparatus was out of ARPA.
Okay, so therefore, any sale of this equipment, how is that going to go back to ARPA money? What we're taking out of ARPA to buy your equipment, how does that stand?
I don't know. It's going to be 10 to 15 years when we start replacing these new pieces of apparatus. I don't know how that works as far as the ARPA funding. That would be to me, that would be a question for Tracy.
Yeah, we're going to have to find out how that is because, we've said all along, if any money came in grant wise or whatever, that would be put back into the ARPA funds to use for something else. I think we've got to find out how that can, I understand what you're saying. We said this all along that we've got to plan for the future and make sure money is put away yearly for new equipment down the line, because in the past, we've really have been putting on a spot sometimes with some of the equipment. So I think did Austin say anything about this? Or because how much money from ARPA it has with the equipment?
How much money?
How much money was put towards ARPA for the equipment? Do you have those figures? I don't have those figures.
I think it was 2.6 million, and then 700,000 came from CDBG.
Okay, that we can put aside. It's the ARPA money that I'm concerned about, because I don't think you can use that money to put into an account for future purchases. I don't know if we can or not.
Bonnie, we're not putting any money into another account from the sale of an ARPA, a piece of apparatus that was purchased from ARPA. So,
Okay.
the new apparatus that will be coming in March and September of next year, they will be the apparatus that we purchased with the ARPA funding.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry.
So any money from the sale then is not going to be part of any of that deal then for the city bookkeeping. I'm talking bookkeeping now, strictly bookkeeping.
Correct.
Okay.
So the money that through Brindley Mountain that we would take in at sale of our current fleet of apparatus,
Okay.
that would come back and that would go towards the purchase of the new Quint.
Uh-huh.
And then the rest of it would go into the capital budget for future purchase of equipment. to replace the new equipment.
Okay, I know. I was trying to wrap my head around all of this. It's like, when you so many places that come at you at times, the mind just, you're trying to separate everything. How many miles is on the used one, the Quint that you're getting?
Well, we do not have one in mind right yet.
You don't.
No, we're still looking. We've come across a few that are going to be coming. They'll be available in summer of 2024 or fall of 2024. Those kinds of things, and that's how it's going to be listed for us. It'll be available. Our tower will be available spring of 2024. The engines will be available fall of 2024. The other thing that we forgot to mention is that talking with Austin, we are not allowed to sell the apparatus. Okay, we have to put an RFP, a bid out, go through bid proposals, or put it on an online auction or have a city auction. So that's the only way we're able to get rid of these, unless we trade it in on a piece of apparatus. But if we were to take these apparatus, trade them in, we would get far less than even the lowest value that Brindley Mountains proposes.
Okay, fantastic. So you're trying to cover all bases here that we can have money for down the line, because
Right.
This equipment is just so extraordinarily expensive.
You add fire rescue, EMS to anything, and it doubles in price.
Well, it probably is also to the point where upgrades and things that become like a computer. So many things change anymore quickly. And some of your equipment probably does get outdated very quickly also. And it's hard to keep on top of all of that. So, it's I think that's one of the questions, that saying that you're buying a used one. If updates can be put into that or whatever is needed. I mean, you're playing a game trying to save the city money and also keep our citizens safe.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yep.
But I thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you very much. And thank you for answering my questions.
You bet. Thank you, Lonnie.
Vince, you have any other questions written down on a piece of paper for us, or did you get your microphone figured out?
Can you hear me now?
Hey, there you go.
Yeah. All right. No, you guys have covered all the bases. For some reason, my laptop defaulted back to the Realtek microphone. I was trying to figure it out here while we were talking, but no, between you and Bonnie, you covered all the questions that I had. So.
Okay, great. Yeah, I mean, I can, for myself personally, if I am still running these meetings in 15 or 20 years when we are selling the 3 fire trucks we purchased with ARPA money, something's gone horribly wrong.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm not going to worry about that right now. But if there are no other questions, we'll move on to item number 2, and that's a resolution for ADA and electrical review. And Mr. Nar, you are up on the following 2 items, actually. So take it away.
Okay, what I'm presenting to you obviously is a resolution. We all know that we use Barry ISET for our building and issuing of our building permits and our inspections. We currently are under an agreement with them. What we're requesting to do is expand that a little bit, and I'll give you a background how things work. When someone comes in and applies for a building permit, they fill it out. It's reviewed for completeness. We look at the drawing side of it. Does it have all the correct drawings, whether it be plumbing, whether it be electrical, whether it be, all of that. So we make sure we have a complete packet. Once that packet is there, the city has never done electrical or ADA inspections or reviews. We just never had anybody that is certified under the Department of Labor and Industry. So what we normally do is when someone comes in and wants to do an electrical permit, when they fill that permit out, they have to put who the electrical inspector is. What it is we go off of the Department of Labor and Industry guidelines as far as those people that are certified under that and can do both the plan review for electrical as well as the ADA. And what happens is we go out and do the different inspections, whether it be concrete pour, whether it be footings, whether it be framing, drywall. When it gets into the electrical, someone does the electrical work. These electrical inspectors have to come in who are certified under the Department of Labor and Industry and inspect that. Once they do that, they would send us a certification card saying that it meets the requirements before we can actually issue what we call a certificate of occupancy for that permit or authorize them to utilize that. So what this is going to actually do is instead of us turning it over and say, hey, here's a list of 4 or 5 inspectors, and then we have to basically have them reach out and send the electrical plans out to them, and then they contact those people during the electrical inspections, and then we have to wait for the certification cards to come in before we can finalize everything. So it's kind of piecemealing everything is what the city has been doing for the last 12 years. Now that we're using Barry ISET, what I'm requesting and proposing to do is streamline everything for the contractors, for the city as well. And what that does is when someone will now come in for the permit, it will be reviewed by the BCO, the building code official, for completeness, make sure that everything's there. Instead of sending the electrical review permits out, ADA plan reviews out, let them be reviewed, bring them back in, make sure that we have everything so that they can move on with the project. It is time consuming and it can be confusing when you get into some of your bigger projects, such as Old City. UPMC does a lot of projects, and we're constantly waiting for electrical inspections to come in, the plan reviews to be reviewed and finalized. So what this is doing is just changing the agreement. We are not going to basically use other third-party agencies to do electrical or ADA and slow the process of development down. We will be doing it all in-house. So when someone comes in and applies for the building permit, they will submit everything to us, electrical plans, they'll submit ADA plans, and then we will have one person that'll basically, which is the BCO, go out there who's certified in all of those areas to review everything. It's all done by one organization, and it's a more streamlining effect. And it's going to save the city time as well as the developer's time as far as waiting or holding different aspects of a building permit up to go through this process. And we have, so basically what will also happen is someone comes in, hey, here's your building permit fee. When we turn it over to the electrical, they have a separate fee. When we turn it into ADA for their review and inspections, they have a fee. We've never dealt with that. So we always have to wait for everything to come in. So what this is going to do is everything will be brought in-house. So when someone comes in for a building permit, on the wall, it'll have, hey, here's our building permit fees, here's our electrical fees, here's all of our fees that the city has to issue a building permit. Will be right here in-house. Everything will be collected in-house, and it streamlines that. And Barry ISET basically has provided in your packet a list of basically what the fees will be for electrical and what the fees will be for ADA. And again, all of that will be collected through us. Even though the electrical fees and the ADA fees will go to them, we will catch 20% administration fees because we are processing everything and keeping everything in-house. What it really comes down to is streamlining everything so that we're not waiting for that when someone goes out and does an electrical inspection, that electrical inspection, we're waiting for the card to come in saying that it passed the inspection and it meets the code. Then we can issue the building permit and allow them to utilize that. So we are being slowed down in a lot of aspects when it comes to that. It's just a matter of streamlining everything, keeping everything in-house under one entity versus having 4 or 5 cooks in the kitchen. And again, it was reviewed by Austin. Austin did review it. And again, this is something that I've been talking with the mayor since I took over on this. And dealing with Barry ISET on that. And it's just going to be an easier process for the city. It's more streamlined. We're not waiting so that the developer thinks we're going to do an electrical inspection, and then we find out, no, we can't do that. Now they have to wait to send the plans out, get them reviewed, and have somebody else come in and do the electrical inspections. We are all doing it in one organization in-house, which streamlines it. It makes it more effective for the city to operate, as well as the developers to basically continue to move on with slowing down the process of development. And again, it was reviewed by Austin White.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. I will open up to questions. Councilman Pelisi, Councilwoman Katz.
Yeah, if I can jump in.
Go ahead, Vince.
You guys hear me? Okay. Mr. Nar, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. So with this resolution, would then it would be one person that is our current BCO would also be handling everything?
What happens is then, yes, basically when someone comes in and applies for a building permit, we will not only look at basically drawings, we will look at the electrical plan, we'll look at the ADA to make sure all that, everything is kept in-house, one person reviewing everything. Now, again, Barry Isett may have a couple different teams that does the ADA plan reviews those electricals, but we have everything in-house so that it's one organization doing it versus 4 or 5 cooks trying to cook a meal.
No, I understand. And normally I would be all about making things more efficient, streamlining and everything. But personally, Councilwoman Katz, Councilman Mackey, Mr. Nar, I think that we should review all this a little bit more in depth at a later time. And the only reason I bring that up is, again, I like the idea of streamlining everything, putting, like you said, Gary, having it all handled, making it easier. But I've been hearing and receiving a lot of negative feedback from business owners within the city regarding the Barry Isett firm. I can't speak to any details or anything. I don't have those in front of me, but I'm just saying in general, I've had several business owners, pretty large business owners that are doing things here in the city that have reached out to me that I don't know if it's misunderstanding or butting heads, whatever it may be, but I think it's something definitely that warrants we have a more in-depth conversation regarding this particular firm and the way things are being handled, because right now I'm only getting one side of a story. Right? We know there's 2 sides to every bit.
And I'll be honest with you, since obviously Mr. Girardi has left, what I can tell you is we have had quite a few different businesses that had expressed some concern. They were used to doing a status quo. And the bottom line of it is Mr. Pelisi, is some of the businesses were basically doing stuff that really didn't meet code or didn't go through the complete process. And I don't want to try to speak negative of anybody, but the bottom line of it is we have to follow the Department of Labor and Industry guidelines to basically make things happen. And obviously in the past, some of those were lax. They were not basically met and followed certain guidelines. So I think that's where you have some of that negativity on some of these businesses. And I don't want to call out anybody's names either,
Right.
but they are the same businesses, again, that we're used to, and not so much getting away with stuff, but it was like, oh, I didn't need to do this, I didn't need to do that. And now they have to follow the rules, the complete rules set up by the Department of Labor and Industry. And it does kind of tend to butt heads a little bit and say, well, this person never made us do that, or we didn't have to have you come out and inspect the holes before we poured the concrete, those type of things. Same thing was, oh, okay, well, as long as you submit me a set of plans, I'm good with it. Well, these plans have to actually be stamped by an engineer. And, there's certain things that have to be adhered to. And this comes all the way to the top from Department of Labor and Industry. And they were never required to do that before. So that's where you've got the negativity. I've heard it, and we've tried to explain it to all of these different businesses, that the bottom line of it is these are guidelines that are set down to make sure that it's public safety. Everything is followed along, because we do get audited by the Department of Labor and Industry in all aspects of that. And all we're trying to do is basically making it more effective, making sure that we don't have any issues, and we meet the Department of Labor and Industry guidelines and meet the UCC requirements. And that's where some of the misconception has been, and some of these businesses that never had to basically follow everything and meet all those requirements in the past, we're not meeting them. And again, that's basically where we're doing that, whether it be Barry Isett or another organization. I mean, you have to follow the Department of Labor and Industry guidelines.
Yep. No, I understand 100%, Mr. Nar, where you're coming from, of following those those guidelines, in previous occupation, I myself was one of the people that would enforce those guidelines and standards in construction. So I completely understand where you're coming from. I just think that before I would feel comfortable voting to move forward with this, I'd want to sit down and hear from those business owners to hear exactly kind of what's going on, and then have a chance for the BCO from Barry Isett to present what's going on. Because right now I'm only hearing one side of a story. And it's not that I'm advocating for anyone to go around rules or, standards that are set for safety guidelines. I just wonder if maybe it's butting heads, personality clashes. I don't know, but it's just a concern that I think, in my opinion, would warrant more of a discussion to make sure that we as city representatives are finding a good working relationship with the business owners that, within the city. That's all I'm saying. But I certainly appreciate, I would 100% advocate for streamlining things, making things more efficient, moving them along faster. I just think that it would warrant more of a conversation. That's all.
Councilwoman Katz?
Vince, do you think you would have some information by Thursday?
I can reach out to some of these business owners and ask to see if I can get the information. I don't know 100% of what's happened. I'm sure Mr. Nar could speak more in depth, outside of this committee meeting, as far as where people are butting heads on what's going on. I can reach out to some of the business owners. All I know is that there was, you call it whatever you want, there was butting of heads, whatever. I'll reach out and see if I can get more information. And to your point, Gary, maybe that's exactly what it is we were set in our ways with doing things a certain way. And, now we're embracing new standards and there's reluctance. It happens, but not saying I just feel that maybe we should talk about that a little bit more, or at least I would feel comfortable hearing a little bit more from both sides of what's going on here before I could vote to expand Barry Isett's scope of work here within the city. That's all.
Gary, how long has Isett been working for the city?
Since approximately Joe left, Mr. Girardi left last June, so it's been well over a year.
So they've been with us a year.
Correct.
So, trying to find their track record and everything that's going on. Obviously, they're probably getting into some conflict with businesses also, with them coming, with their rules. It's not their rules, it's the rules that should be followed. So, I think maybe, if there is dissension between the business community with some businesses, maybe we should look into this and find out what's really going on. And I think what you're saying, Gary, is probably correct, but let's, to me, find out exactly if this is what it is. Let's face it, when you're in business, and big businesses, they try to save as much as they possibly can and also as less hassle as possible. And if there are rules to be followed that you haven't had to do in the past, it changes your whole operation, the way you do things. And maybe this is what we have to figure out, especially with some of the projects that are coming up, to make sure that this is being done correctly. So I think, Vince, if you can find out more information, that's my opinion anyhow. John, that's all I have to say right now.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can appreciate what Councilman Palizzi is saying. This to me seems like two separate issues, though. I mean, we're talking, number one, about trying to streamline this process for businesses. I mean, Gary, if you could ballpark it currently, how long does this whole process take and then how much time do you think doing something like this would save businesses? I mean, time, I mean,
it would save enormous amount, because again, we don't do electrical inspection. We don't do those type of reviews. So somebody comes out and rewires the house before we can sign off on everything. We have to wait till that person gets a copy of our building permit to add it to that, goes out and does the inspection, comes back. We get the card in the mail. And then at that point, we can say, yes, you can utilize this. It's the same thing with a ADA review. And these are big things. We've got a bunch of major projects coming up, and we've run into some stoppages of work because they think, okay, we do the electrical inspection. Next thing you know, no, we don't do that. Now we have to wait, make sure that they send plans out to one of the people under the Department of Labor and Industry. So you're probably talking in some aspects, especially when you get into these bigger projects, delaying by probably at least weeks, maybe a month, because they have to be reviewed and looked at to make sure they're in compliance with the UCC. Then at that point, they give you okay. Then at that point, they send an inspector out. So it can delay some of these bigger projects by quite a bit of time. And that's what I've seen. And that's what and that was one of the things that we took a look at and said, let's get this streamlined, bring everything, have one entity look at it. And again, once we get that process, I mean, I have no issues, and I've never had an issue sitting down with some of those ones that have a concern with, and it was about educating some of these business owners that, listen, these are said, we're not doing this just because that's what we want to do. We're doing this because there's a set of guidelines that says you have to have engineered drawings for this, and you have to have this and that to meet Department of Labor and Industry, so that it doesn't come back on the city later down the road when we don't have the proper documentation, as well as it's a public safety issue for that. So it is some of that. There was a couple entities that we've had issues because of that, and they just didn't want to go through that process and don't understand why that process has to work. But these are guidelines that's set by not only the Uniform Construction Code, but the building code, but Department of Labor and Industry. And all we're doing is letting them know or teaching them that they have to be adhered to in order to basically move forward. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. And again, I mean, I'm all for, I think I'm all for streamlining, excuse me. Yes. I mean, time is money when we're talking about businesses here. So, to me, these are two separate issues. If we're having problems, if we're having businesses and Barry, I said, or whoever it is, when we're butting heads, then that definitely needs to be addressed too. And I don't know how we would do that. I don't know if we could, and we could get together. I mean, we could have some sort of a public hearing, not hearing, but just a public meeting where we can all sit down and just kind of smooth the waters, so to speak. I mean, no, we're not, again, Gary, I think it's what you said, is we're not anti-business. I mean, the law is the law, and at the end of the day, we need to make sure that everybody's following the same rules. So, I can tell you I know one of the entities that has raised questions of that. We did sit down with them, and Barry Isett and Associates upper level sat down with them and explained to them. And then, we were able to get, certain documents that we needed to basically move forward so that we can issue the permit and do those things. So that has done. And again, I know Barry Isett is willing to do that. And I'm willing to do that. We've done that, sat down with those entities to reassure them that this is, not basically just something that we want to do. There's a set of guidelines that we need to follow to make sure it's safe for you and your business people, but as well as the community. Yeah, I know. Sometimes getting the answers you don't want to hear are tough, and we are in that business, unfortunately. Yeah, unfortunately we are, and we might get a little bit of that tonight at our public hearing. But at any rate, if there are no other questions on item 2, and I'm not hearing any, Vince, anything else? No, Bonnie?
No, I'm done.
Okay. We'll move on to item 3, which is a resolution, Susquehanna Riverwalk extension. And Mr. Nar, you are up again.
Okay. What I'm presenting you to is obviously the Susquehanna Riverwalk is looking at doing an expansion. We currently have the Riverwalk along the Susquehanna River within the city in South Williamsport. I have provided you a drawing which will show you basically what the expansion is going to look for. What it does is it connects the current Riverwalk in the red, what we have going up behind like Pennsylvania College of Technology, in and around Elm Park, brings us back down along the eastern part of Newberry area and brings it up and connects it on to the Susquehanna State Park. As part of this process and funding and everything, we obviously have to make some upgrades to both railroad crossing alternates at Maynard Street as well as Arch Street Dike area. And in order to do that, that has to come from PennDOT. So we have to authorize PennDOT to basically do some modifications for the safety of the citizens, as well as obviously safety of the rail system. So in order to do this, what this resolution allows us to do is have PennDOT act on this and get this stuff rolling so that we can get the funding that we need and get boots on the ground and start digging as early within the next year or so. And I do have representatives from both the county on board as far as the architectural engineering from the other entity, as far as that can address any other questions. And again, this was reviewed by Austin White, and we would like to move forward. And it is time sensitive, again, because it deals with grants and funding of that nature, in order for us to basically expand and make Williamsport a more walkability as well as, some bikeability within the area. And I
Okay.
can answer-
Yeah, I'll open the floor up to questions. Bonnie, Vince.
Gary, for years I've been saying the access to the Riverwalk at times can be a challenge in certain areas of the city, and I know everybody has tried to come up with a solution. So hopefully this will be a good solution. Seeing that it's coming from main campus of Pennsylvania Technology, hopefully it'll be easier, because trying to get on the Riverwalk from downtown is a challenge, as we all know. So we'll see what how this works at this point. One thing I want to ask though, with that I didn't see, is there going to be parking available there?
We currently have, if obviously where it is the connect. We'll still have the parking right at the Riverwalk area. And I believe obviously there will be parking that'll be able to connect up to the Susquehanna State Park, which we currently have parking up there. I haven't seen the design as far as any parking in, obviously around Elm Park, there is parking. So there are some splits in that area where you can park vehicles as far as to move traffic. As far as to basically exit your vehicle and walk along those areas.
Okay, I'm glad they're still pursuing different areas with this. I really am. I have no other questions.
No, I think this is a great idea. Extending the Riverwalk. Yeah, it's amazing. I was just looking through here, budget and funding, phase 1, 97,380 from Lycoming County. The remainder to be comprised of a DCNR C2P2 grant, correct? And then phase 2, again, the same DCNR C2P2 request, and then county and other grants to make up the other 50% difference, correct? So to complete this, Gary, we're not going to have to look at increasing taxes on the Williamsport residents to make up any kind of shortfall or anything. Is that correct?
No, this isn't actually coming. It says from that aspect. And again, that's what they're doing is this just allows them to report and get the whole package together and apply for different grants and stuff so that we don't have those issues down the road.
Gotcha. Just got to make sure. Thank you. No, I think it's a great idea.
Gary, I'm looking at this map here. Just want to make sure I'm looking at it correctly. So we have Maynard Street there. We come across 180, and if you're looking at the map sitting in front of you, you're taking a left, and we're kind of heading down along the railroad tracks there through which.
What that actually is going to do is you're going to actually walk in behind. It'll walk in behind right before when you cross the railroad tracks there at the street. It'll cut across that level area, and it's the old Cedar rail system that goes up through there. So that's where they'll go up through all the way up the Rose Street, come out towards Rose, come back in and out across, and then we'll right around where the Lycoming County has the transfer station, right about in there. Then we'll come up along 3rd Street, come back in behind the development in behind where River Valley Transit is and the Susquehanna bus system sits there. I mean, as far as the school wise, and then it'll come in out around Elm Park. It'll come back down along. A lot of this again is based off of the railway system.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do know through Elm Park there is, I don't even know if it's an official road. It's a dirt road that I know our police use to get from one side of Elm Park to the other, that comes in behind River Valley Transit. I'm assuming that that's going to be addressed.
Yeah, it'll come back down along the dike levee system right there.
And you're going to have to get from Elm Park up onto the levee there. Yeah. And then why is it that it stops? It just kind of dead stops at what is, again, there's no street names here.
It actually, what it'll do is, if you look at it in behind the recycle center, the railroad bridge, it'll go up through that, which basically will connect that area to the 4th Street area. So you kind of connects Newberry with the Riverwalk,
Right.
Not just within the central business district, but again, it does come down along the dike levee system and come back up out around and connects to Susquehanna State Park.
So if you wanted to pick up the Riverwalk in Newberry, you would do it along 4th Street there.
That is correct. And you'll come
And
across
you would ride out a little bit out of Newberry and back around if you wanted to come down all the way to, that's the on-off ramps there from 80 to
that's Maynard.
Reach Road.
Yep, exactly. And you'll come in behind, obviously come in behind Reach Road and behind the Lundy complex. Again, that's the dike levee system that follows that, and that would take you all the way up to the state park.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'll come down along, and it kind of goes in and around. Realistically, there where it really comes down to is that's actually 3rd Street, where it's kind of come into the Newberry section of town.
Yeah.
If you see a little section, that's the 3rd Street area. They'll cross that bridge there.
Okay. No, this is pretty great. Yeah, no, I don't have any other questions. I think this is exciting. So Vince, Bonnie, anything else on this agenda item?
No, I don't have anything else.
Nope.
No. Okay, then all we have left is item 4, any related. If nobody has anything, I
I
will take a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
And I want to thank everybody for being here today, and we'll see you all tonight.
Okay,
Thanks,
fantastic.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.